We're back on the homestead, and it's time to take care of this old cabin foundation that we've been kind of treating as an outdoor kitchen. So let's show you what we're dealing with, and then by the end of the video, it should look a whole lot nicer. The pad is completely destroyed here. You see there's cracks throughout. I think that might be the old toilet, drain hole for the toilet. And then on the outside, we actually have like 3 layers of concrete. There's one here, another ledge here, and then we scraped up another layer that's real thin. This leveling layer here. We've got outer layer here. We'll be pushing our forms outside of this, running a new footer, and then pouring a new slab of concrete over top of this. We're gonna have to move everything. We're gonna extend it out this way, move the fire pit, and hopefully put out enough concrete here that we can have a nice fire apron and enjoy this beautiful spot right here. No obstructions to the smoke. Right out in the middle of the woods. And that should complete the first phase of the outdoor kitchen.
We debated for years on whether or not this little piece of property was worth preserving. Yes, it has a lot of family history, and yes, it is the house that my aunts and uncles and my father grew up in. But it's kind of an eyesore, and it's in the middle of the front yard. For the longest time, the plan was to bulldoze the old cement pad, throw in some topsoil, plant some grass seeds so we have a nice front yard for the kids to play in. But then we realized that with a little bit of work, we could preserve this while also making it the launch pad for all of our outdoor activities. Given that we don't live here yet, I don't know if this project would have been possible without Tyler and Heather that you see here now. They came out on a Saturday and just grabbed shovels and started moving gravel. I didn't even have to ask them. I didn't hint. There was no payment. Just hard work from good friends, making a memory. Here you catch a glimpse of Al's tractor that we also borrowed to help spread out this gravel. Longtime viewers of the channel will know that that's the same tractor that we used to demolish the old addition and fill in the pit from last year. I can't emphasize how important it is to have a good community around you. And that means not only taking advantage of your friends shoveling gravel or your neighbors lending you tractors, but going over to their houses and helping them with their projects too. That way everybody gets to have a little bit more fun knocking out the chores and hanging out with the people that they appreciate most.
If you can't tell, I'm absolutely exhausted, but it's one of those exhaustions that you just feel totally satisfied with. Nothing better than ending the day tired and waking up a little sore when you're doing something you love. I got mosquitoes here, I haven't put bug spray on yet. Thanks to Tyler and Heather's help and Al's tractor, we were able to level this whole thing yesterday. My father-in-law came out, who works concrete. He's been doing it for a living. He's fantastic. Came out and helped us grade this, brought a couple of cool tools, and we're ready to do 2 pours. Originally, we're gonna do 1 big pour, but since we're stamping and coloring and doing a release, we're gonna pour the square pad first, and then we're gonna move on to the one that has the curve around the fire pit, which is good because then we can set up the forms here, set up the structure here, and actually have a little bit of cover, hopefully, by the end of this video. Yeah, a lot of work, a lot more work than I thought. My original plan was to do it all by hand. Thank goodness I was talked into getting a tractor, and thank goodness I've got friends who are willing to come out here and just literally work all day with me. Absolutely the most critical tool that I had was friends. And then the tractor's really close to that, so no offense guys, but damn, that thing works. I'm getting killed by bugs, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time out here. Plus we wanna get back to the build. We should have concrete coming tomorrow, so for you guys it'll be seconds. For me, I've gotta wait 24 hours. Still gotta put the steel down, and then we can do the concrete, and then the stamping begins, and that's gonna be a big job.
When you're doing a project this big, it's good to get a cement truck to come and mix it and pour this concrete for you. I've done pads this large without a cement truck with just my own hand mixer, and it is nearly impossible to keep up with the curing of the concrete. You end up having to pour a whole bunch of 4-foot by 4-foot pads, or having concrete that is not well adhered to itself. But when you're buying in bulk and having the dye added for you so that you have good color matching on multiple pours, it's actually pretty economical to order the concrete directly from a company. We picked this lighter clay color to match some of the stones that are in the original fireplace that my grandpa and my aunts and uncles and my dad built. You'll see on some of the closer shots that the stones will match up with this color. The next step is to throw the release out so that you can stamp it without the stamps getting completely covered in concrete. And then here we are pressure washing off that release the next day. I know it looks like an awful mess, and that's because it is, but it's an organic charcoal-based compound and it does no harm to the wilderness around us, even though we're blowing it all off directly into the trees. The next day was a slightly smaller and easier pour, and we had that fire pit in the middle to screed off of, which made it really easy to establish the grade all the way around. With the help of my father-in-law, Ed, Tila and I were able to knock this one out a lot faster than the one we did the day before. Once it was poured, we quickly ran the bowl float over the whole thing, leveling it out, and then Zach threw the release while I worked around the perimeter with the stamp. From the moment the concrete truck arrived to the moment we were done stamping, this took about 2 to 2.5 hours. Not so bad, which is nice because it was a real hot day.
I'm gonna make this part quick because I just finished stamping. I'm exhausted. You saw the time lapse, I'm sure. And I really need a shower. I mean, like, look at this. That's basically my whole body right now. Oop, you can tell where my boot ended. Oh, let me get you in the sunlight. Tell where my boot ended. There she is. Recessed fire pit, 1,200 square feet of stamped concrete. And this stuff is just the dirtiest freaking charcoal grit. They call it release. You put it on there to make sure your stamps release and don't get stuck, and then you spray it off and you get a two-toned effect. You'll see once I seal this, it's all gonna pop real nicely, but all in all, it's coming along.
Now that I'm editing and doing the voiceovers, I notice that I say I a lot of the times when I should be saying we. I'm not doing all this by myself. I'm doing this with Tila and with my family. So I'm going to need to be a little bit more vigilant on that going forward, because divided among the 5 kids and Tila, I am doing literally less than half the work, all said and done. I cannot take credit for the entire process myself. It's projects like these that really make me appreciate the hard work ethic of my kids and the even harder work ethic of my wife, Tila. Whether we're renovating a house or pouring a brand new concrete pad, she's always right there by my side. In fact, it'd be difficult going back through all this footage and all the projects that we've done to find a single moment where she's not there working harder than I am.
We're back up in the UP and it's time to make a little bit more progress on the outdoor kitchen. But let's show off some cool things first. We finally have the Farmall W4 tractor here by McCormick Deering. It's a 1949 with side PTO wide base, basically similar to the H model with a slightly different wheelbase. We have a custom step system that we put on there so that we can more easily climb this old tractor. And she's pulling my 3-axle trailer with all the materials that we're gonna need to put up these sidewalls. Now this won't be an enclosed outdoor kitchen, but we have these giant 6x6s that we're going to be topping off with some 2x12s layered, glued and screwed to make beams. And then we're gonna leave the other side over here nice and open for a fire pit. So hopefully by the end of this video, we're gonna have all of these joined together and raised up, screwed into those steel posts that we already have put in from our last video on this project. Django, we're filming. It's okay, go get it. Oh, he hit the camera. Django, get the f out of here. I can drop the F word after a few minutes, I think, on YouTube. We don't do sponsors on this channel. If you want to support us, in the description, there's a link to our published survival book, Don't Die, a Survival Manual. So if you want to help out the channel or support us, don't go buy DeWalt and the stuff that we use. Or they don't give any kickbacks at all. Do buy our book, which is linked in the description below.
Throughout the video, I'm going to do some voiceovers during the time lapses so I can talk a little bit about our modern tools doing old school techniques with modern materials, and also so I can talk a little bit about the history of this old cabin foundation.
All right, Django, out of the way. Here you go. You ready? And go. Oh, no. you're trapped by my supports. You're not trapped at all, never mind. So your chainsaw is kind of the imprecise way to do it. We took a long time on this cut and then chopped down to the line on both sides. And then we need a hammer and chisel. We get to do the satisfying part of knocking these out. So right off the bat. The grain treats you nicely. You can even knock off these little ones here without going too deep. Yeah, not a bad notch. We've got a high point here and a bunch here that we need to bring down to this level, but with the chisel, we'll be able to bring that right to where we need it to be.
Now, the far better method for this technique is to use a skill saw and make multiple cuts using a right angle speed square as a guide, so that you can get all of those cuts exactly to the right depth. However, this was a 3 1/8 inch deep notch, and I didn't have a saw that could cut deep enough, consistently enough. I'd resort to the chainsaw. And while I am a fan of gas chainsaws, those little electric ones do have a lot of control, and they're far quieter, no exhaust that can burn you, no gasoline, no startup time. There's a lot of benefits for keeping one of them around as a limbing saw or a trimming saw. Now, if I was cutting multiple cord of firewood instead of making a few cuts on some timber, then I would definitely go back to my gas saw. This power planer made short work of taking down these ridges. I knew that once I had all of them gone, I was about at the right depth. I did cut a little bit shallow so I could take the chisel here and planer down all the way and get it nice and clean. Now, like I said earlier in the video, what I'm attempting to do here is to blend modern equipment, capabilities, and materials with an older technique of building that is stronger. The difference being is that we're using pressure treated wood and electricity to make it easier.
All right, Django, you ready to go again? You ready to go? I'm gonna throw it this time so I don't kick it. Oh, not yet. Not yet. Ready? Oof. Right into the burrs. All right, that's not what we're here for. Not too bad. Precision and the control of this, oddly enough, this electric chainsaw allows us to really do a lot of stock removal really quickly. And then the powered planer there takes her down pretty close to where we need to be at when we tune in the corners with a actual timber framing chisel and a wooden hammer. So that works really well for us. We cut a little too deep on one of these, so there is a groove there. Luckily, the 2x12s are gonna cover that and go all the way down, so you won't even see them.
I'm lucky enough that we don't need building permits out here. I actually called the county and asked them what they required for a open-walled gazebo or pavilion, and they laughed at me because they don't get phone calls from people this far out in the woods in this county, in this state. People just tend to build out here and wait for the tax assessor to raise their taxes. Seeing as I didn't need to get a permit, I didn't need to have exact plans, which meant that I didn't have to go talk to an architect, which meant that I designed this completely on my own, which means, knowing me, I've way overbuilt it. Sure, a 2x8 could have spanned the 8-foot gap between these two posts, and it could have been held up by a 4x4. But why not use a 6x6 and then laminate 2 pressure-treated 2x12s, glued and screwed, and then through bolt them with some leg bolts after? In the end, the only reason not to overbuild something, aside from its bulky nature and its weight in some cases, is the cost. So I ran the numbers. The cost of building it overkill, like I have, versus building it with 4x4s and 2x8s instead of 6x6s and 2x12s, would have been the difference of a couple of $100. The way I see it, I'm going to be staring at this thing for hopefully the next 60 years as I age out of this life. And I want to look at something that is robust and laughably overbuilt. So the answer to all the comments that I'm going to get about why I built it this way, the answer is because I wanted to. And that's enough of a reason.
We've got the notches cut here. And we've got the 45s ready to go in. Pre-drilled with leg screws. So let's see how she fits. Got a little lip here, but we knew that this board's a little bit thicker, so we might chamfer that. Drop the leg bolts in. Pretty good fit up, not perfect. That's my first one. Same thing here. Sunken in, flat, 2 leg bolts. Should make for a pretty decent 45.
What you're not seeing in this video is the installation of the other 11 45s, because we did 2 of these walls with 4 vertical posts each and 6 45s on each side, which means that we had 12 total with 24 notches, and that just would have been a lot of time lapse for you guys. So we've shortened it down. We've cut to the end here of us raising the wall and getting it into place. I don't think I could have done this if I didn't borrow this John Deere tractor from my neighbor Al, and if Dave, my other neighbor, didn't come down and help us install this wall. I say neighbor, but it's kind of a loose term up here in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I could stand in my yard and scream at the top of my lungs, and none of my neighbors would actually hear me. So when I say neighbor, they're still a little bit of a drive away, but they're the closest people, so we're going to call them neighbor anyways. At this point, I'm just happy that we're able to use that old W4 Farmall tractor as an anchor point to strap this thing up vertically for a little while. It wasn't very helpful in lifting it because it doesn't have hydraulics, but it was helpful in being a giant steel anchor to hold this upright for a little bit while we got it stabilized and lifted it with a John Deere.
There.
Oh, wow, nice.
Let's get some screws in it, T.
Do you want me to put it down more while you're holding it?
Just let it down a little bit.
I meant if you while you were holding it.
Okay.
Hey, all right, we're almost to the point where that's it. All right. Well, there you have it. Main walls are up. Everything's cleaned up. We're braced. Just for the next year, we're going to have these up by themselves, and then we'll build the giant trusses that'll go over top. We're going to leave the fire pit open, of course. So you have your outdoor kitchen, and you'll have your beautiful forest fire proof, fingers crossed, knock on wood, fire pit out in the middle of the woods. And we got to use the W4 tractor to do it.
All right, so this is an entire year later because I have another job that pays the bills and keeps food on the table for the family, and YouTube does not do that yet. However, the plan is to move up here and enjoy this homestead full-time on 1 June 2026. Tyler's out here again, putting the collar ties onto the rafters. We got a lot of these up in a super sketchy way, so I didn't film it and I'm not putting it on YouTube. You can see the ladder that we had to heavily modify in order to reach all those collars and rafters. Through the magic of time lapse, you guys get to enjoy the 6 hours of work that it took to do this side of the roof in about 60 seconds. We went with a nicer plywood instead of OSB or a cheaper option here because you're going to be able to see the underside of this from underneath due to our open rafter design. We went with shingles on the roof because I like the sound of the rain hitting shingles more than the sound of rain hitting tin. I didn't want it to be too loud under there, and I'm still trying to justify the purchase of this $350 DeWalt cordless roofing nail gun. With the one nail gun, it was easier to have people just feed me shingles, and then I'd go down and do 3 or 4 rows at a time. So the shingles are constantly falling into place thanks to my helpers, and then I was just knocking in those 4 nails and continuing on. And no, we're not going to make you watch us do the exact same thing on the other side. One time lapse of somebody shingling a roof should be enough for this video. We can press on to showing some of the final results. Of course, since we're building this on vacation time and we don't live here full time, we were unable to completely finish the project, build the bar, build the big table, but those are projects that are going to be coming out later on this channel. And even though it's not complete, that's no excuse not to break out the Blackstone and make sure we cook breakfast on this thing every single morning we roll out there to continue the project. And don't get me wrong, we're going to show a final review at the end of this video so that you can get the satisfaction of a full story. But in the coming years, we're going to be building a large table for us to have dinners out here. We're going to build a bar top. We're going to move that smoker over and add a smokestack up to the top, and we're going to refinish this chimney and make sure that it is fully functional. We still have these bracers attached to the side because I've not added the 45s to the eaves or to the collar ties, which will stop it from swaying north and south. It's quite strong east and west due to the 45s that I put in earlier, but I do want a little bit more north and south stability before we take off these bracers. We've got a redneck hot tub out there that we enjoyed quite a bit. We've got the smoker set up. However, the smoker is going to move 6 feet to the left so that that chimney on the right side will line up with the peak of the roof, and we can run a chimney extension all the way up to the top right there and have it come out the side of the roof without going through it. So you see it'll fit nicely there. We're gonna have the ability to add I think a pizza oven is the main plan for that area. And then we've got to do a lot of work on that chimney before it's done. We're thinking of adding a bar here, a high top bar that you can come up and sit on the outside, though you won't be under the roof when you're sitting at the bar. It'd have to be a nice day. And we're going to add 2 giant tables in the middle. In order to combat the mosquitoes, we're going to add 2 large fans. They can't fly in that breeze, so we can turn those on and not have to use bug dope. In between filming these 2 videos, we're able to secure our own set of hydraulics, so we no longer have to borrow Al's tractor. This one's a tracked Case 350B with a loader bucket. We've been using it to bring firewood to the outdoor kitchen. And our axe also broke, so we bought a new steel maul. Only $60, which is surprising. Steel as in S-T-I-H-L, not S-T-E-E-L. And definitely not S-T-E-A-L. We did pay for it. Another wood delivery mechanism is this lawn tractor and dump trailer. Lets us burn away a lot of that yard waste that builds up since we're not up here full time and the yard does get cluttered. All right, the last thing I want to show you guys is this setup at night. So I'm going to back off here and hopefully line up the 2 videos so you can see this thing after sunset. That's when it really starts to pop. There we go. We mounted hanging lights and a 600 watt set of speakers with the amplifier, allowing us to play some good music out there. But it doesn't get overly bright, so you can still sit around the campfire and have that campfire feel. But if you need to walk over and cook something or prepare something on a table, you do have the light that you need. This whole project has been a balance of creating a tremendous capability while also still having that woods feel. So you can sit here and stare off into the wilderness and see that beautiful moon, watch the clouds, hear the barred owls, listen to some nice music, have all your tools and all of your capability around you, but still feel like you're really in the wilderness and not ruin that rustic feel. But we still want to have some of that modern convenience because, let's face it, this is a place that I'm planning on staying at for the rest of my life.
If you like this type of content, check out some of our other videos. And if you want to help us out, check out the link in the description below to see our published book, Don't Die, A Survival Manual. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for viewing to the end. Appreciate you guys.